Here we go. Buckle up. It's gonna be a bumpy one.
Nostalgia has grabbed hold of me. It has its claws firmly dug deep into my skin, into my brain, and it is allowing me to create these old Toy Biz designs in a more modern aesthetic. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, basically those older figures were a little bit short. They didn't really move. So now we're updating all those articulation points with the best, in my opinion, articulation that you can get in an action figure, that is Storm Collectibles. Now the base body of this particular Storm Collectible is and obviously it's had modified sculpt details in terms of the legs, the feet, the hands, the forearms, and the back. But for the most part, it keeps the core elements of what makes Storm Collectibles special. Ever since I got the first MK1 Ninjas from Storm Collectibles, I was blown away with the engineering, the articulation setup. I always thought to myself, what if I could take these figures and actually make customs? What would I create? How would I maneuver around the difficulties? And unfortunately, my hand was forced into creating these. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. Marvel Legends was my dedicated toy brand. I adored, I loved with all my heart, something I was incredibly passionate about. A toy brand that I've been collecting since I was a child. I've been collecting all the Toy Biz figures since 1997, maybe even 1995, 1994. It's been a long time in the making. And since 2001, when the Marvel Legends officially took off, you know, disregarding the Hulk classics, disregarding the Spider-Man classics, I was there. I've been here since day one. I've had every single figure that they've created. And in 2020, corporate took over to a point where the figures went down the toilet and they become dog water. They literally become the worst fucking figures I could imagine. And what I mean by that is they just released crap quality, poor QC, terrible articulation, no new updates, no new engineering, and at the point I was just like, these things have no paint on them, they're just not good enough anymore.
They're crap. Crap, mega crap.
I cannot support a company that isn't willing to improve on their designs, isn't willing to push in terms of creating a quality product. It was quantity over quality, and that is just not something that I can do anymore.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
I do not appreciate that mentality, and I can't appreciate those figures.
Girls, please.
You know how much I love you!
So that left me with two options. Don't collect Marvel Legends anymore, the brand that I've been devoted to for pretty much my entire life, or the second option.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
So that's exactly what I'm doing, and at this point I've created so many characters, mostly Spider-Man because I love Spider-Man, and that's why we're here. Lasher, he's part of the Spider-Man crew. He is involved with the whole Symbiote saga, the Life Foundation, the separation anxiety storyline. So let's get cracking with the custom after that long-winded intro. This is a bit of engineering that I quite enjoyed, so I wanted to have these tendrils interchangeable. They were originally on the actual figure, so I wanted to replicate that. Now they are painted different. I wanted my own unique styling in there, and I wanted it to look very aesthetically pleasing. So the color combination is slightly different. You've got that traditional thing that I do where I add black dots over everything. I don't know, I just like that art style. It's strange, but you know. Then you've got the pattern flowing down the body. In terms of its connection point, I'll show that in a minute, but just taking a look at the paint, it all blends. Painting this thing was incredibly enjoyable. That turquoise teal lime green combo where it's all these different colors. I wanted it to make it look almost like it's symbiotic, like it's moving. So you'll see different color variations throughout the figure. You've got different forms of greens. I think there's like 5 or 6 different forms of greens. Then in terms of the tendrils themselves, they were connected. There was 2. So I had the Lasher tendrils, and then I had the Agent Venom tendrils, and they're fused together and then sculpted with these different spikes to give it a very Lasher feel to it. Now the arms, they can pop in and they can pop out, the head can pop off, it's all interchangeable, it's all Storm Collectibles joints, they all have the same connection points, but there was modification in the frame of the Storm Collectibles joints where I've added an extra socket. Now that socket links to the outside socket, which is a hole in the back, which plugs in, and because it's soft rubber, it's a nice, it's going to connect really well. The only unfortunate thing to this is after I left this sitting for a long time connected, what ended up happening because of the Aussie heat, it pulled the paint off the back. And at the time, I was reached out by my Patreon members because I ended up making this guy to sell. That wasn't my original intention, but this guy is absolutely huge and I couldn't keep it in my display. It took up far too much room with all these spikes and tendrils, and it was huge, honestly. This guy is gigantic when it's fully assembled, standing nearly 8.5 inches tall. Like he's giant. But to be fair, the original Toy Biz design, how huge he was built, that's what it was based off. We're not building it and basing it off the comic book version, which is really skinny and tiny, and he has like more of a slender frame. No, this is the 90s, guys. The 90s, everybody was just overly roided for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And that's the aesthetic, that's the build, that's the frame in which I'm trying to achieve. Now, as you just saw, the head has been dremeled out because I had to reshape it and change it. It was the same head sculpt that came with the base body. It was just completely resculpted, and I needed a lot of gapping around the neck so there wasn't any friction or rub points. But overall, I had no issues other than the backpack. Like I said, it pulled the paint off, which is unfortunate, but the customer was completely aware and they were completely okay with it. There was just kind of an agreement that we just wouldn't pop the back of the tendrils out. They would be a permanent feature, which is a shame because I went through the whole creating it interchangeable with the ball joints. It can still rotate and everything because the friction point was deep into the shoulder blades. Now this tendril, whips, lashes, if you like, are interchangeable. They suck it in. So the way that I made this is I cut the Omega Red arms out, and I basically used that connection point and glued it on and sculpted over it. And those tendrils are the Omega Red tendrils. Now, in terms of articulation, this is the fun part. This is the magic with Storm Collectibles. Look at that neck articulation. Listen to that sound of it moving around with that rubber. That is so great of a feeling. Being able to articulate it with no neck articulation friction point in the neck, and it still gets all that range. Like, that's magic. That is amazing. That is wonderful. In terms of the arms, again, because of that rubber chest piece, you can get this insanely high range of articulation. It's got a butterfly joint, but it's so tucked in there that you can't really see it. Not only that, but look how tight those articulation points are. There's no gapping. When you make articulation for custom action figures, you have to Dremel out a huge amount of plastic, which causes gapping to allow the articulation to move. Storm collectibles are engineered in a way that doesn't require all that huge amount of dremeling, because the way that they're built is completely unique, and there is nothing else on the toy market that even comes close to the level of engineering that these things have.
You're the best. Can I follow you around? I won't get in the way. Let's go. I'm going to follow you and watch you and worship the ground you walk on.
Now one of these hands have popped off, and I wanted to show you that not only is the ball joint sanded and paint rub free, but the hands themselves have been modified. They were originally the base figure's hands, which are rubber, and they have been fused and cut and reshaped with the Marvel Legends Toxin. So you have all that range of articulation, as well as having these awesome symbiote hands. The Lasher tendrils pop on and off the exact same way that a Marvel Legends Omega Red pegs do. Now in terms of the articulation in the chest, you get a little bit of gapping, but you always get gapping with Storm collectibles. That is just something that, you know, a lot of people either like or dislike. Personally, it does not bother me, because the more range I get out of these articulation points, the better. I want to be able to pose my figures. I want to be able to enjoy my articulation points. And if that means a little bit of gapping here and there, I'm more than okay with that. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not overly obsessed with huge amounts of gaps. Like Reveltech is a little bit too much for my liking, but this is more than okay. So now, getting to the base of the figure, in terms of those articulation points, look at the engineering behind these pegs. The level of thought and the level of intelligence in terms of the creation of these toys is mind-blowing. From a customizer's mentality, and I can only speak from myself of having over 20 plus years of experience in the custom action figure community, this level of engineering is like nothing else. And it's so well made. The quality is just insane. I love these figures. The crotch piece is always the most difficult thing when it comes to hard plastic. Well, if you remove the element of hard plastic and you replace it with rubber, it makes everything so much more articulated. And that's how you get these absolutely crazy poses like the splits. Not only that, but you could do pretty much anything with this guy, even with all the over-encumbered accessories all over him. I'm just not very good at articulating action figures. On another note, the custom is incredibly durable. I would go as far as it's scratch proof, due to the heavy and incredibly durable paints that I use. But like all customs, sanding, Dremel work, prep, all these things, full disassembly of the action figure before you turn it into a custom is required. This is the most important step, working from the ground up to achieve those high level results. With this form of articulation in the legs, I really wanted the paint applications to look like a marbling effect, with the white veins kind of coming through. For me, a huge part of these custom action figures, and just the Storm Collectibles figures in general, I really love the sound of their articulation. Now, and a lot of people make out that it sounds like the joints are going to snap or break. That's not the case. It's just the joints are so well engineered, so incredibly tight, so that they have that huge amount of durability. So that way, when you even create them into customs, they still have that incredibly tight joint system. Because when I prep, I'm not removing the durability. I'm simply just shaving enough plastic off so that there's no friction points. With the tendrils here, it was very important to stay true to the original design. The biggest difficulty factor was getting these tendrils to bend how they're bending right now without the paint cracking and deteriorating over time. Having that bright teal was very important because that's what the original figure had. That's something that the new modern Lasher or any Lasher in the comic books doesn't have. This design is completely unique to Planet of the Symbiotes, the original Toy Biz figure. The flexibility of the rubber helping to greatly improve the articulation points. I'm deeply and incredibly passionate about the older toys. They were something special to me. Back when we were children, we didn't have all these things that a lot of the children have today. We had toys. And toys, we valued them, we appreciated them, and we used, most importantly, our imagination to create all these different scenarios and just had fun. We are adult collectors. We collect these things based on nostalgia. We base these things on how we felt as children, and I think that's what's missing, the creativity and fun factor of toys in this day and age. And coming back full circle, I understand that Hasbro has their hands tied with the licensing issues. I get it. But this is what's missing. It's too corporate. There isn't enough fun and play and creativity in their toys anymore. Just look at what Toy Biz used to create in the 90s. Take a page out of Toy Biz book. Now guys, I hate to disappoint, but this is not going to get scaled with all the other toy brands. This is my own unique scaling. Now you could sit there and say, oh well, they're Stone Collectibles, so they're 7-8 inches. No, because they've been heavily modified. They're actually a lot larger than Stone Collectibles, especially with all the different kit bashes. One figure doesn't hold all the articulation points as a similar Stone Collectibles figure. They're all uniquely different in their own little way. That means, Symbiote should be larger than Spider-Man, so therefore he's on a bigger base. If I ever get round to doing the true Life Foundation comic book accurate version of Lasher, then he would be the same size as Spider-Man, but due to the fact that this is the Toy Biz larger than life, bigger, bulkier version, that's what I was aiming for. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this longer video. This is Stone Collectibles Lasher, the Symbiote Seeker line. And on that note, thank all my Patreons. You guys are the best there is, and the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And an extra special thank you to my Soul Silver supporters. Thank you for going that extra mile.